Do you feel guilty about the decisions you make? Are you honest with yourself? Do you use that guilty feeling to your advantage? You should and you can. Does this come down to conscience? Keeping us on the straight and narrow? Let's find this stuff out. There is a good and a bad guilt. We're told that guilt is a bad thing. Don't feel guilty. We're always don't feel guilty. Don't be hard on yourself. Sometimes you have to be. Dr. John Braccio, Regional Psychological Services. Every week on a Tuesday, you get a little free advice from Doc Braccio. It's What's Up, Doc? With Doc Braccio. Hey, good morning, Dr. Braccio.
Well, good morning to you, Mike. And there's no question this is a big topic in terms of its impact on people, because guilt's a very difficult thing for most people to get right. Therapists will tell you that a good percentage of their clients suffer from some form of guilt. And the problem is really knowing what is positive guilt versus negative guilt. Well, we can say that positive guilt is when a person's aware they've done something wrong to another person, and they try to make amends as best they can, okay? Then they let it go, okay? This can be done by directly talking to the person, indicating they've done wrong, and just telling them, hey, I did wrong, and here's how I feel, and maybe this is, what I can do. Problems occur, though, Mike, and this is where the problems occur, when the person carries the guilt, even after they've done all they can to correct it. Now, this doesn't mean the person isn't aware they've done wrong, but when you carry guilt for something that's resolved or can't be resolved, it's a waste of time. It can really drag you down, and this is really a bigger issue than you might think. It's one of those things maybe it hangs in the background, and we just don't think. People do wrong and move in life, and people, react differently. And so many really good people are just worn down, and guilt never ends. And then you can run into the martyr, okay? The martyr who's never going to let you forget what you did. You let me down. You weren't there when I needed you. Yeah, it just keeps coming to my mind over and over again. Well, so in this case, the martyr uses the guilt to club you over the head. Okay, that's one form of negative guilt. Okay, and then if it impacts you, and you just can't get over it yourself, and there are a lot of people, particularly in family relationships or friendships or just regular relationships, that this can occur. Okay, and then the end result of this can be poor self-esteem, unrealistic expectations, and just feeling guilty, okay, feeling they have no control. And then there are areas too, Mike, which kind of get into people feeling guilt for things they literally have no control. Like if you're unhappy with the mayor, something the mayor does, mayor's cheating or did something wrong. Well, there are people that do, or the president, or whatever it might be, and they feel bad about what a public official, will just say a mayor, has done. And it isn't reasonable, but they carry guilt and they feel bad as if they've had something to do with it. These are the type of things, if you're worrying about these things and carrying guilt, you can have poor self-esteem. It can cause you, anxiety, shame, social withdrawal, insomnia, depression, if you're really worrying about things, particularly things you have no control. So it's really important that we not allow that to happen, and we deal with reasonable guilt. Like if a family member or a friend does something, for us to be, I just feel so horrible about what Mary or Chucky did, and really it has nothing to do with you, But people hardly, when they get this into their mind, it's very, very hard to get over it. And we have to really realize that we're all human beings, and people have flaws, and people make mistakes, and they can do things that hurt people. They can hurt them. They can offend them. Yeah. They can take advantage of them. And the important thing in life is to make amends, resolve as best you can. If the person is gone and there's a way you can't resolve it, you still use it as an example for others, and you learn from it, and something you try not to do again, because guilt can really just tear you apart, just destroy you. This happens to way too many people. So it's time to liberate yourself and just say, hey, I've done what I've done. I've taken care of what I've done. and I'm now want to move forward and just make good decisions and just not let this guilt tear me down. But it tears a lot of people down. It's very difficult.
Dr. Braccio, conscience and guilt, because we hear about guilty conscience. So these are two different things, are they?
Well, they run together. I mean, if you have an overdeveloped conscience, and you worry about everything that you might do, or you overfocus, like, I know I've done wrong. You made a statement, and then later on you find that the person disagreed or whatever. You had no intention of doing anything, and certainly something we want to work on. That we don't want to intentionally hurt someone. But when you have this overdeveloped conscience where you're worrying about things that really are not even offensive, but in your mind you worry they might be, so you're even carrying these type things around. But having a good conscience, a balanced conscience is a good thing. If you know between right and wrong, do unto others you have to do unto you, and that's a pretty good rule, to live by. So they definitely interact. If you have this overdeveloped conscience, and then if you're around people that play the martyr or want to blame you for things, then you can end up in a negative situation. So you want to get good balance in your conscience. You want to do right. You don't want to do wrong, but you don't want to get to the point where you just have this overdeveloped conscience. The best way to put it. I've worked with a lot of people that are that way. They just blame themselves for so many things, and I have to go, whoa, Nellie, let's settle down here a little bit and figure out, what can you do? What did you do? How did the person react? But no, guilt is guilty. This happens in families. I could treat my mother right, or my sister feels this way about me, and it turns out that maybe the person's trying to take advantage of you and uses your overdeveloped conscience or your kindness and caring in a way to take advantage of you and push you into a corner and have you do things that really are not the right things to do, but you feel you need to do it and you move forward. So it's a big deal. And the overdeveloped conscience, yes, this is it can be a real problem. It's getting this balance in life. Balance is a hard thing. The old Aristotle summum bonum, getting the middle ground in life can be very difficult, particularly when dealing with a conscience.
Boy, I don't know. Has anybody read Aristotle? That's tough. Yeah, you got. I will say, because I've tried, but if you can find someone's interpretation and a good interpretation and explanation of Aristotle, it's like a Thomistic philosophy. If you never tackle Thomas Aquinas without somebody guiding you through it. I will just say, you mentioned balance, humility, conscience, guilt. It all works in tandem to make us better people, doesn't it?
Well, they can, unless they get out of balance. I mean, the problem is when we get things out of balance, when we overdevelop a conscience, or we worry about things we can't control. Like, I really am so embarrassed by the governor. Okay, well, what the governor did something. Yeah. Well, I mean, this gets in. I'm not even talking politics. It can be anything. Like something happens that the governor did with no intention, or the mayor, or the city, whatever it might be. I'm not trying to make it
just something out of your control.
Something out of your control, really, in feeling guilt, or a war going on, or something going on, or why is that going on, or why can't we stop that? I think I can only agree. However, the point is, if you're in Lansing, okay, if you're in Detroit or wherever, and you can't really deal with some war that's going on in a country 10,000 miles away. You can feel bad about things, but once you start picking up the post-traumatic stress, you start picking up all the worries, and you start feeling guilty. It becomes too much. But at a more local level, these are things that can happen with family. They can happen with coworkers. That if we do something that we feel is wrong, and we may have without even meaning to, sharing some information that was inappropriate, and then you try to resolve it, and the person won't accept it. Say, but look, I'm not going to get over that. I'm really angry at you. Let's say you have done something wrong. You accept that, but you can't let it define you. You can't let it get to the point that you have insomnia, you're not sleeping well, you have low self-esteem. No, you have to. You do the best you can in life to resolve problems, and then you have to move on, because you can't live in the now if you're worrying about something, particularly something you may have had no control over whatsoever. We just try to be a good person, Do unto others, you have them do unto you. That's still the golden rule, the way you look at it, Mike.
We got to get going. Dr. John Braccio, Regional Psychological Services, BraccioPhD.com. Doc, what's up, Doc? Again, next Tuesday. We're looking forward to it. Have a great week.
Always a pleasure, my friend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. 1320 WILS.